I'm so happy you mentioned black people. It seems as if we've been at the very top of your agenda for quite some time. Why is that?
A few reasons. Black people helped me reach the masses. Now, as you know, I was over music in heaven. My beats were so dope, I got over a third of the angels to follow me. And once I got here to the earth, I needed artists and entertainers to help me promote my message here. Who better than black people? Black people possess all the natural rhythm and music ability that I need. And it's easy for me to influence them with money since so many of them grew up without it. Another reason I target black people is because they're strong mentally and physically. If black men were to ever find their identity in Christ, I'd be in trouble. So I try my best to destroy the black family structure and keep black men away from his family and the church. Drugs and incarceration are a couple of my more popular means. Without the head of the household present, I can become the head and influence the children without too much resistance.
There are 66 books that make up what we know as the Bible today. You get to the very last book is known as the book of Revelations, meaning that things shall be revealed, the revealing of. Now, if we can agree that things that are of good repute, things that are of the Father, Mashiach, are going to be revealed in these days, we should also expect things that are of the contrary to also be revealed in these last days. When the Bible tells you that Lucifer, the god of this world, has blinded the minds of many, take note to that phrase, he is the god of this world, and that would also entitle him to any and pretty much everything that is in it. For him to be able to offer it to Yahshua, he had to have had it. Now everything with this cat is an all cap. So when you start to look at industries, whether it be medical, political, social, economical, collegiate, educational, sports, entertainment, and the list goes on and on. The higher you ascend, and/or the higher you want to become, you are going to have to play the game. You're going to have to play ball. There is an agenda that you are going to have to push whether you want to or not. Now, in my peak in studies, when I was dealing in and with the occult, that was one of the things that they stressed to us, which is known as the mark of identification. And it goes something like this. Anything that's of the master in chief here being Lucifer, will always have a seal and/or a sign to identify what's behind. So when you start to look at the mudras and the mantras, some of the shapes, symbols, signs that can then be assigned to an assignee, you have to ask yourself, who is the author? And the more you uncover who the author is, and you find out that it's the devil, he could then go and report to the Most High and say, you see, I've left my sign. They know that it's me who is behind, and they still seek me. They still lust. They still follow. They still crave what is of me. They still love my industries. They still love my ways. They still love my ideologies. They still love everything that is of me. You see, why do you bother with such lowly creatures when they're so easily swayed and can so easily be dismayed, which we're told not to be? This is the account and the charge that he brings up on all mankind who willfully or ignorantly follow him in these days. Take, for instance, the Board of Education and its logo. Now, many people send their children off to school in these facilities, and they've never really asked themselves, what does this logo mean? Well, let's read about it. It says the U.S. Heraldry Directorate worked with the Secretary of Education to design the seal. Let me stop there. Anytime you see the U.S. Army involved in anything, that should be a red flag. The Army deals with war. But then again, the Bible tells us that we are at war. It says, with its sturdy trunk set in solid earth, the tree expresses the confidence and strength imparted to the individual through the development of the mind and the assimilation of knowledge. Sounds pretty good until you ask yourself, well, what assimilation of knowledge? What knowledge exactly? And from whom is this knowledge imparted from? Again, remember, we need to look at the seal and the signs. So let's keep digging. It says here, the people also ask, what is the official seal for the Department of Education? The official seal of the Department of Education is described as follows. Standing upon a mound, an oak tree with black trunk and limbs and green foliage in front of a gold rising sun, issuing gold rays on a light blue disc, enclosed by a dark blue border with a gold edge, or with gold edges, bearing the inscription, the Department of Education. Anything jump out to you? Well, I'll tell you what jumped out to me. One was it being on a mound. Mound is a high place where these people worshipped on high places. Then you have an oak tree. Oak trees, just like those who worship underneath the oak trees, the sacred oak trees, and the groves, is something of occult nature. With this black trunk and the limbs that stretch out like tentacles, and green foliage, I see everlasting life there. In front of a gold rising sun. Therefore, the gold rising sun must be behind the sign, issuing rays on a light blue disc. So you get this knowledge that's being powered by a sun. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, these are sun worshippers. And with the sun, you had its counterpart, the moon, and with that, the moon worshippers. And when you did so, you were given to the spirit, these deities that bring on rain. On the Rain Man, also known as Boogie. Oh yes, our dear fellow entertainer, Michael Jackson. We're going to pick on him for a few. Examine his lyrics. You now know what he says and what he's meaning by blame it on the boogie. Blame it on the spirit. Don't blame it on the sun god. Don't blame it on the moonlight or the moon goddess. Don't even blame it on the good times. Blame it on the spirit or the boogie. That's who is the author and responsible behind whatever Mike is going through during this feeds. Let's go and look at some of the lyrics again. They're a little more telling. This magic music grooves me. That dirty rhythm fools me. The devil's gotten to me through this dance. I'm full of funky fever, a fire burns inside me. Boogie's got me in a super trance. As a little kid, and as us colored folk can so often tell you, one of the spirits that seemed to have spooked us out was what was known as the boogeyman. And as you keep tracing, you think that it originated with you in your childhood, but you can find it all the way, even on the plantation. This boogie, also known as the Rain Man, would hide in the dark places, under your bed, in your closet, seemingly any place that didn't have light. It only came out during a certain time. And it spooked many children out. And this is before we even had movies speaking on the boogie. Something in us primordially was detecting a demonic presence. And our parents would say, oh, no, there's nothing there. Or was there something there? A lot of us have had encounters as children when we are at our most innocent, but then also our most fragile. And we're dealing with parents who are so ignorant to the devices that we're told not to be. So we just send our child whimsically back to sleep or right into the hands of the boogie instead of combating it with acknowledgement and prayer and supplication, or just exercising power of Mashiach over this entity which is very ancient. Knowing this, go back and re-examine all your records, your favorite records that mention the boogie. Speaking on the Rain Man, which is the same entity as the boogie, we know that he's venerated through many, many cultures by many, many different names and aliases. But that the interesting part is that The Native Americans and a good deal of the tribes would perform what's known as ceremonially rain dances, into which they would chant. Some chants sound like Ahaya, which would then be a blasphemy of the Most High's part of his name, the root origin of his name, shall I say. Now, I'm sure you may have seen a chart floating around with different Native American tribes being likened to some of the biblical 12 tribes. And while there may be a grain of validity to that, which really no man can truly prove just yet, one of the aspects that you need to be very careful about is likening people to Yah who may be very far from Yah, and you can tell by their customs and therefore the costumes they wear when conducting the customs. Say for instance like the totem pole, which is venerated throughout Inuit society and a lot of Native American tribes. You do realize that these totem poles is nothing but another depiction of the phallus or the phallic symbol of Nimrod. These poles, these Asherah poles, which are spoken of in the Bible, dealing with Gaia, with the earth goddess, and the veneration thereof, is all connected. Let's not take what is given to dogs or demons and ascribe it to be to Yah and or of Yah. And while we're on our Native American tip, why don't we deal into a beautiful sister who was a Blackfoot Native American, good old Shaka Shaka Khan. Who don't love some Shaka Shaka? Shaka 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 Khan. You know, wait a minute, Shaka. What is that, Shaka? Oh, no, Shaka. I don't want to come to your house. Not with that sign you're throwing up. Oh, no. Now, some brothers may bring up the fact that she spoke on Whitney Houston's death and, you know, what took place and what takes place in the industries and how demonic it is. And I believe her. I believe her truly being upset with Clive Davis conducting a party while Whitney's body is still in the tub. But if you think that all of Lucifer's children get along and they're all happy with one another, then you are sadly mistaken. It's no different than y'all's kids. All of y'all's children, we don't always get along. You could read the Bible and find that out. We get aggressive sometimes. We disagree. Do not look at Lucifer's children or those who are claiming him as their father and look at the disgruntlement that they may have with another of Lucifer's child and think somebody's righteous or more righteous than thee. No, they still belong to the same father. They just disagree. And you may be saying, well, how can two walk together except they agree? That's true. But why would you ascribe that to someone who's serving the God of confusion? They don't need to agree to get their accomplishments done. They don't have to walk together. They just gotta walk with their Father, who comes in many different forms and many different names, many different colors, and many different genders. He knows how to appeal to your flesh. So these people worshiping the devil or Lucifer do not have to agree. They just have to walk. While we as believers spend our time arguing over some of the most menial and trivial subjects, these guys serving the same deity under different genders, under different names, under different skin tones, are getting his work done. And speaking on getting his work done, who else can we see dances or boogies with the devil? How about our girl here, Tina Turner? Yeah. You know, in her song, Private Dancer, she says, I'm your private dancer, a dancer for money. I'll do what you want me to do. A private dancer and any old music will do. What you're listening to is a person willing to haul themselves out in order to receive fame, riches, glory, esteem, worship, and any of the things really that the flesh desires. The music video in and of itself is very telling, with the checkerboard floor motif. Oh, what do we have here? Good old dancing boogie with the devil himself. You know, when I seen this from Tina Turner, it caused me to question anything that came out of her mouth, even her accusations on Ike Turner. It's at the point now you have to really ask yourself, can you believe and trust these people when they have already signed up to get down, taking what was right, making wrong? upside down. Round you turn me, inside out.
Upside down, you turn me, yeah. Give it everything. Upside down, come on, upside down.
Flipping the truth literally on its head. Can you trust them? Now, if you're a little older and you know you're very fond of hip hop back at its prime, you know about a guy named Immortal Technique. He has a song called "Dance with the Devil," and I won't get into the exact breakdown of that song because it is highly graphic. It's something that you ought to listen to, you know, when you're in the right mind and the right spirit on your own time. But he does say, and I want to read from the lyrics again since we're still talking about dancing with the devil. He says, and listen, because the story that I'm telling is true, because I was there with Billy Jacobson. I his mom too. And now the devil follows me everywhere that I go. In fact, I'm sure he's standing among one of you at my shows. In every street cipher, listening to Little Thug's flow. He could be standing right next to you and you wouldn't know. The devil grows inside the hearts of the selfish and wicked. White, brown, yellow, and black. Color is not restricted. You have a self-destructive destiny when you're inflicted. And you'll be one of God's children that fell from the top. There's no diversity because we're all burning in the melting pot. So when the devil wants to dance with you, you better say never, because a dance with the devil might last you forever. Very poetically spoken, but very true. There's so many of us willing to take many risks in order to dance with the devil. So many of us willing to enter in certain industries and guilds, brotherhoods, sisterhoods. Is it worth it, however? If they've been doing this for thousands of years, what makes you think that you will be the one apple out the bunch that is able to outsmart the modus operandi?
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is not available. At the tone, please record your message.
This is a representative of the Most High calling to ask about your soul. Are you going to pick up?